That trade show felt like a wild roller coaster. Like
I was gonna say
that was
a roller coaster of emotions.
Unsure of like what I just witnessed overall. Like I saw some process trades that make sense and I can make good cases for and argue both sides, and then I'm like, what in the Sam hell are we doing with draft picks right now?
I can understand it. I'm on this roller coaster too because Cooper has just completely shattered my world in the last couple of weeks. Multi-year warp changed the game where you just ignore, and you're looking at historical averages. Where I was at with like liquidity and rookie pick values, and then you see the rookie warp come into play, and you're like, fuck, man, this opens up a whole new world of possibilities, especially.
Look at the tight end line for a second in this league, right? Can we admit, Mike, that when we look at warp charts, this is going to be one of the more rare ones where it's still not the greatest of lines, but relative to most leagues, I'm a lot more interested in tight end in this league than I would be in the majority. I'm not saying I'm like going to go crazy on tight end, but I'm interested here at tight end.
If you look at it, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can see the steep drop off from the elite guys.
Correct.
Down to like, say, tight end 12.
40 chess. Yeah. 40 chess. 40 chess. Let's get it.
Yo, is that T-Dog?
40 chess. 40 chess. Hey. 40 chess. This a trade show. Patreon where the trades go. Tap in and watch. That's what you came for. Ain't gotta say my name. They know my name, bro.
What's good, man?
We got McNutted in ATM. Always start off the show with a trade from them. You should always make sure that your trade is in Patreon. Why not be a Patreon? Know you wish you could spend every day with them. Tap in and say what you gonna say with them. South Harmon can fill up a stadium. Next time you log in, make sure that you bring a friend. We about to kick off, let the day begin. Go follow the socials. 40 Chess FF is posted. If your trade is an F, you get roasted. Go like and subscribe for the crew. Apple, Spotify, and the YouTube. You know Cooper got the warp too. Let us give you a walkthrough. 40 Chess. This is 40 Chess.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Dynasty Trade Show. So glad you could join us. Really appreciate you. Always a reminder, if you want your deals featured, patreon.com/South Harmon. And go check out the website, southharmonff.com. We got a hell of a promo going on, 20% off, big banner at the top. We made it dummy-proof because we're dummies and we would mess it up ourselves. Just click on it. There's a promo code. Take you right to it. 20% off. Warp Tool, Mind Warp, whatever the hell you want there. 20% flat off. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah.
Feeling good?
I feel as good as I can be. I mean, listen, it's not like we did anything super exciting. Jerry Jeudy, I think for the team, it's a lot more exciting than I am for fantasy, Mike. Like Jerry Jeudy, receiver 2, I'm all right with it.
Are you gonna get a famous Jameis jersey?
Mike, I don't really know what to even think about this.
Just asking.
We went from like Joe Flacco, coming in, and now we got like Watson's kind of got this reputation. We got crab legs craziness.
Gotta eat them W's.
We gotta eat something. The locker room could be an interesting development, but I'm excited, man. The Browns are, I think, quietly in a decent position. That being said, the Steelers definitely got better. The Ravens picked up Henry. It's not like the division got any fucking easier. So I'm a fan. Listen, I've seen the Browns be pretty bad, so I'm happy where we're at.
Can we do a whole trade show if this hypothetical T. Higgins and 2 firsts for Justin Jefferson goes down and the Bengals get Chase and Jefferson? Let's go.
Yeah, I'm sure. Honestly, it has not been at the receiver position, Mike, but free agency, it kind of like lent down this Madden pathway where like we thought just mayhem. Anything's possible. Why not? Let's Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, couple of firsts. Let's get crazy. Speaking of getting crazy, if you've got some kind of wild, wacky deal that you want to get on here and have us review, patreon.com/South Harmon. $5. Come drop it in the Completed Trades channel. We will pull it up on the trade show for you and give you our review. Mike, we start off with one of our own. We're going to start off with you and myself. So let's start off with me first here, Mike. I pulled the trigger after Mike told me not to make the deal, so I kind of have an idea of what he's going to say. But let's get into it anyway, buddy. 12 teams, start 10. So this is Fade the Fetal. It's a BDGE league, and this is our friend. Speaking of our website, go check out his lengthy and well-written incredible articles on our website.
Very, very good.
Mr. Tarek T-Rock himself. Mike, let's just say this. If you think this is bad, okay, the deal that I made here, Nick Ercolano put some players on the trade block early. I was up. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll put some people on the trade block. Kind of get some things kicked off. T-Rock sends me 4 offers. I'm like, all right. Like, he's probably got to be trying to play ball to some degree, right? Like, let's just say I opened them up, and the latest 3 offers he sent to me were not this one. And I just said, Jesus. If you thought this was bad, Mike, this guy was trying to break me off for Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, like, take the whole house and farm. And then I saw this one for Nico, and this is what I'll say about it for why I make this trade. I am cautiously, at this point, like, not necessarily in on this crazy hype train that Nico is getting to. Frankly, I didn't even realize quite how high he had gotten in the ranks as far as keep trade cut, as far as like where he's going in startups in over 400 real money leagues, Mike. Like he's wide receiver 10 currently when they're placeholders as picks.
Spicy.
310 in startups. So, Mike, while I will say that typically I'm not in on Nico at that, I didn't feel like this cost was that, frankly. And ultimately, not saying that Nico's going to die on my team at the end of the day, right? Like he's an asset that I think right now has, outside of an injury, not a lot to lose for the next 5 months, other than if Houston drafts a stud receiver and then all of a sudden, pandemonium hits the wave. But T-Rock is getting back his own 25 first and his own 25 third in this trade. He has Mahomes. He has Hurts. Like he did not make the playoffs with kind of some bad luck, but his team is well built. I don't think he is intending to take this team to the bottom, but I think he wants his flexibility back. So it's overall, if you're on podcast, Nico Collins is what I'm acquiring. T-Rock is getting back his 25 first and 25 third. 12 teams start 10. The point is it's like some people call this the tiered PPR, half point for running backs, full point for receiver, 1.5 for the tight ends. League is fade the fetal. Floor is yours. Tell me why I effed up.
Nico's just kind of been a sell, right? You alluded to some of the things. Keep trade cut, wide receiver 15, startup ADPs, wide receiver 10. It's too much for me, man. It just the part that I really love about the deal, right, when you sent it to me, is T-Rock getting his picks back. And I know his team, like you said, like I could see his team on the lab. Shout out the lab. You can go check out his team in that league if you want. But his team is good. But I still want my own flexibility. You alluded to it, right? He had a good team going into this year. Some bad luck, didn't make the playoffs. Like, bad things happen. Bad things really do happen at times. And
right, because all of a sudden, that great team, he missed the playoffs. Now all of a sudden, his pick was like the 106 or the 105. Sure.
I want that flexibility back. And for a guy that's in that tier of wide receivers, which is very, very big, where I'm not sure who's going to be the best one out of there. Who's going to be the top tier out of that tier, right? Like, who are going to be the guys you really do? You talked about it. Smitty's in that tier for me, Adam. Olave's in that tier for me.
Well, let me just ask you then, because to that point, because I think a lot of our agreement and disagreement kind of aligns here for the record. Like, I think I completely understand and frankly am aware of the reason you're like, in general, Nico's a sell for me. But let me ask you this price, a 25 generic first, that right now, like you're not sending someone back his first and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go get this 101. Like I've given him his flexibility back. Would you send that in a third, in his own third and 25? Devontae Smith.
It's still kind of similar, right? I value
it. Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Very similar.
So like Chris Olave, would you do it for that?
Me personally, right, we're player agnostic. We try to be. But I can also tell you that I'm probably a little bit more in on those guys than I am Nico.
But that's why I'm asking, because I want to have let's do the one for one. Let's put our player biases not aside for a second.
Gun to my head, I got to pick one of these deals, right? A first and a second for one of those guys, or a first and a third. The first and the third for Nico is
okay. Now let me ask you if it's this price, like because you said currently in a vacuum. You don't want to give T-Rock back his flexibility for Nico. What if this was Pittman? Would you do it?
Still in that tier, number one in that tier for me.
I know. I'm asking like because I feel like there's probably some answers here where you're going to answer yes to me, and that's okay. Yeah. Just give me the player. Michael Pittman, Drake London, right now, right?
Yes.
Like so. My point is this.
No cap on this one.
Thank you. The reason I took it, Mike, by the way, when T-Rock sends me 4 offers and I read 3 of them, I'm just ready to hit decline on all of them and tell him, listen, you little fucker, piss off. Like, you get lost. You send me this shit. What do you think? Basically 3 firsts worth of value for freaking Devontae Smith. After I traded him to you. Get out of here. No. By the way, speaking of traded him, I sent Nico to him for a second, so RIP. Neither here nor there. That's sunk cost fallacy. Mike, for me, when I took the players out of it, I'm like, okay, right now, what is the hottest commodity in the game? Top 20 top 15 receivers, other than draft picks themselves, right? Like the draft picks are still the name of the game.
The safest.
And in a league like this, where it's half PPR for the running backs, full for the receivers, the warp is pretty solid for the receiver position as a whole. It's basically like we know, as a lot of lineup leagues, it's quarterback driven, and then after that, it's the receivers shortly after. And if I take my bias of Nico out of it and think of him as an asset that I can move, like I just think generically, Mike, because the thing about it is, if it's the first going to T-Rock, he's the one person that values it as getting his flexibility back. That 25 first isn't moving to most teams for all year for any type of thing like that. Like nobody's valuing that 25 first and third like I think I might be able to move Nico in a window before the season even starts. So it's just like I felt like I was leveling up currently the startup value and the value of the player and just the asset that I think I'm able to move better. I could end up being wrong here,
That's
right?
fair.
This is a move that could backfire, but I just felt like it was one that was too good to pass up given the situation. So that's why I made it ultimately.
The only thing that like really comes into play too in doing player analysis, right? You talk about Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman.
Yeah. Yep.
What I can definitely say about those guys is I feel more secure in their role. Like those don't really feel like landing spots where you're adding giant target competition to it. Okay.
Totally fair.
Some of the splits with Nico Collins with Tank Dell healthy, like, are a little concerning. He had some games even with Tank Dell there, so don't get that twisted. I'm not saying that he's trash with Tank Dell. And healthy Tank Dell, maybe that affects him. Houston, we do these mock draft shows every Monday. Sometimes we're taking a wide receiver for him. Now, it's not a Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, which would be like a death nail. Like, oh shit, this really stinks. But honestly, the one thing about this class I love is the depth of the wide receivers. There's a lot of good wide receivers after those top three guys where I go, yeah, man, like even Keon Coleman, for Christ's sakes. If Keon Coleman was taken in the second round by Houston somewhere, we'd be like, oh, he's kind of gross, I get it, whatever. But if Keon Coleman went out to break out and like dominate the NFL and be like a top tier receiver, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not going to be shocked. I'm going to be shocked if Ladd McConkey does it or Troy Franklin, A.D. Mitchell. Like, I'm not going to be shocked by any of these guys going out and actually be like, damn, they're good pros. They're kind of on the level of like a Chris Olave coming in where you go like, I liked him in college. He got some things, but he's got some warts on his resume. Yeah. We still don't really know. And Houston is the one spot out, like all those wide receivers you named, where I'm like, I can see them adding somebody else possibly. Like, I can see them adding to their plethora of weapons. And then what does that mean for Nico Collins? Like, is he that good where he buries that guy? Like, is he that good where he still outshines Tank Dell, or does he kind of regress? But to your point, though, this is a market play. Well, I don't think you're taking this deal thinking, like, I'm just going to sit on Nico Collins. This is my dude, right?
Nico Collins, truther. He's dying on my team. No, Mike, because let me just ask you this. Like, seriously, on a market play, I'm tomorrow. Actually, well, we're recording this Thursday. This video will drop Saturday, the day prior. So on Friday, you can go check out on BDGE's page, Mike. I went over like old school roots and dynasty flashcards and thinking about assets and how you can trade them. Mike, let me just ask you right now. If I sent this 25 first and third to anybody that's not named T-Rock, something in the range of that, you're talking about the draft picks, 105, 106, I'm getting laughed out of the fucking building. Nico Collins is going on the lab for real trades 104, 105, 106 pretty frequently. So I guess that is in a nutshell kind of the idea of what I'm doing here. I understand there's risk, and if I was to hold Nico for all time, there's definitely some waves that could happen and things that could backfire. But I just feel like right now, Mike, given what T-Rock's team is, the upside of Nico and what I could capture in a future trade is significantly different than this 25 first and third.
And that's fair. That's fair. But if I'm judging the trade as a whole, I got to pick a side.
I'm not telling you not to take T-Rock's side. You take the side you want. I'm just telling you the reason I make the trade. And T-Rock also, Mike, if this is what it took for T-Rock to feel like he's winning and getting his flexibility back, I think this is the last point I'll make on this trade. Sometimes, Mike, I actually like trades like this. I'm helping somebody that I'm wanting to trade with later on that's sending me shitty trades. Like, hey, maybe we have a better rapport next time, all right? Don't send me this opening offer of gaping me with these other. Let's have some good discourse here, huh?
As long as we've known T-Rock, man, you think at some point he'd adapt and go, hey,
we're
good.
Imagine a guy that writes those in-depth articles, right? Has a ton of awareness and attention to detail, watches our content and knows our attention to detail with trades, and then sends me just like, I love you, buddy. Like, what happened here? Like, in what world do you think I'm accepting some of these trades? At least he got one of them right, 25%. Mike, let's get to your trade. This one I thought was interesting. So I'll just let you talk about it first here. 12-team Superflex, 2 tight end, full PPR, best ball start 11. This is shit auction 5. Unfortunately, the league I recently left. JSN is being acquired by you, as well as the 111 in 2024. Speaking of the 2025 first in class, DREC 22 is that DREC pick is coming your way. So you're getting 111, a future first in 25, as well as JSN. Sending away, obviously the play here is the rebuild, the assets, the re-rolling of values, and getting off of the crusty Stafford, the Aaron Jones,
right,
the Deontay, and the Saquon Barkley. So in best ball, Mike, a 4 for 3. But talk to me about just overall the crux of the deal we can kind of see. But what are the details and why'd you make it?
So this happened before free agency, right?
Kind of figured that part, yeah.
There's a little bit of remorse.
A little bit of not seeing what the fuck kind of craziness was coming. I mean, God forbid you didn't see that, you know?
I thought Saquon to my Eagles was a fucking pipe dream, bro. Pipe dream.
I know. I mean, I wish. Listen, I'm excited because the Browns did nothing. Mike's getting freaking Saquon for free, you know. But anyway.
Deontay going to be the de facto number 1, no question about it in Carolina.
Can I tell you what's crazy about that is that when Russ came to to Pittsburgh for basically free, you're like, all right, that's a good thing for Deontay. Mike, what's crazy is when you think about it now, like you're looking at getting that news and that piece of information and having like a day to process it and think about it and then be like, oh, wait a minute. Now this other situation might even be better. Like that's kind of wild to think about.
So a lot of this hinged around, I'm still big in on JSN. Like I've seen the things out there with Tyler Lockett re-signing and people like clowning JSN. Like I still really like him. Still in that, we talked earlier about that big tier wide receivers. He's still in there for me. I actually think the Tyler Lockett stuff is just kind of overblown. We saw them both on the field towards the end of the season, and which receiver would you rather have on your fantasy roster? Towards the end of the year, like JSN was the one making the plays. And you're like, man, Lockett kind of really tailed off, right? Kind of disappeared, and it wasn't because of injury. He got older.
Mike, I think things just, as much as we like to say that we know things just, even from player takes and analysis, can change on a whim. I never would have thought that there's so many people all of a sudden saying George Pickens is going to be like this, like we should be back in on him.
Right.
And that now JSN, like literally like a year after he showed a little bit of promise, obviously underwhelmed from what we were probably hoping, but like kind of like skies falling on JSN. Like before the draft, I would never have guessed some of that stuff. I'm with you. I understand saying that JSN isn't safe as hell, but I liked a lot of what I saw down the stretch, and I think what people are totally missing about the Seattle situation, Mike, is everything has changed there.
So another thing that kind of hinges on this, right? So
sorry, go ahead.
Flex
Continue.
here.
Yeah. Oh,
flex.
Oh.
Startup last year. I won the league year 1. But to do it, Adam, I leveraged every damn pick I ever had. I mean, 26 is
all
fun, bro.
All of them. Everyone they put in there. Let me get that too. Mm-hmm.
I mean, after the 24 draft, I'll have 27s to play with if I want to run it back or whatever. But
yeah, if you decide you want to take this,
all
27.
them picks are gone, right?
Yeah.
So I want some skin in the game for this draft and future years.
Okay.
Another thing that kind of puts me on it, right? Stafford, Aaron Jones, like they have value. It's a best ball league. Let's not get it twisted. But
sure,
those are also like dying out assets. Those are unsafe assets. Like those guys could be gone in an instant. Saquon Barkley, same kind of thing. Deontay, age enough where like here today, gone tomorrow. I'm sending 4 of them. 1 for a receiver that I like, that I think is trending up, even though people don't really a pick in this class, which I really want. And then the key for me was D-Rex first. On the surface, you look at it, he's picking 106 this year. Last team to not make the playoffs. But this is a guy, too. Doesn't have his first this year. Doesn't have his second this year. Doesn't have his first next year. Like that, those picks are mine. Like his first, right? So you're already talking about a team that finished borderline of making the playoffs. What if he suffers an injury or two and doesn't have the liquidity to fight himself out of it? Could this be an early 25? And if I were to tell you this is an early 25
do you feel it has a
first,
chance? Do you feel it has a realistic chance, like or a decent chance, somewhat of a chance?
It's one of those that you and I would both say when we use this term. This is a team I want to bet against.
Yeah, all right. That's what I'm. Yeah, way to phrase it the way we should. Yeah, there you go.
And if I were to tell you, right, like if we could predict the future with certainty, I told you 100% chance.
Can you imagine?
This is an early 25 first. Would you not trade for that early 25 first for all of those pieces over there, even in a best ball league?
Well, what I was going to get to, Mike, is that the 25 first, I think, is where you talk about like what we know about these old crusties and where they're probably going to be, even though it's a short shelf life, versus what that pick could be, right? If it's a late 25 first, given what we think about the class, totally different. But if you tell me, Mike, that that's a top 4-3 pick, like I don't even know, I don't have to know anything about the class. I just know how picks and cycles work. And I want to have JSN already is in a very similar range to Barkley in startups, and I have the age factor. I have the reset factor, and it's not a running back. So given what you're trying to do, I'd take the JSN side. I think it's a fair deal, by the way. I'm just saying those, like, I understand what you're doing there. The 111, you talk about, Stafford, Jones, Deontay. But, Mike, if that's the early first, even in best ball where we're starting 11 like this with hella roster spots, that pick is going to be a top 3 or 4 round startup, easy, potentially higher. So I think based on the upside of what you're playing for, I totally understand what you're doing.
This is also like taking the team from, it's like, hey, you're locked into a direction and making it a little bit more flexible. In a vacuum, I much rather would have traded Shane Joe because he holds my 25 first. But thinking about it, sometimes when those deals come in and you look at them and you're like, oh, it's too good to say no, right? You don't do your due diligence. And I could have gone and said, instead of D-Rex, I want mine back, like the T-Rock deal. That's probably the route, right? Like, I want my 25 first back. You can keep D-Rex, even though I want to bet against that one. But it locks me a little bit more into a direction where I want to compete this year. But coming off of a championship, it's not the worst thing, too. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I play for free in this league for the next 7 years, by the way. So there's another flex.
It's back to Jameis Winston. Browns analogies all over the place. Eat them dubs. Love this.
Eat them dubs.
I'll just say that obviously, let me ask you, Mike, you kind of said and made mention early. I'm not saying that you did a horrible thing, or you're saying that you did the terrible process here, but you're saying, had you known what you knew, like, again, if you could see the future and you saw all the different outcomes of free agency, you might have been trying to squeeze a little more juice out of the lemon, huh?
Definitely would have.
I think we all can at least agree on that. I when I view it and what you're telling me, even with the current context of free agency, I don't think it's a bad deal. I think he probably had a little more to get out of this trade. But in reality, here's the thing. Like, yes, obviously when we make every single trade, and I think this is one thing to think about as far as getting trades that get hung up. One of the things I'm starting to really, really encounter, Mike, maybe it's because, we're creating content as much as we are and whatever. But, like, when you get to the trade talks, everyone wants to squeeze that last little bit to make the more and more you try to squeeze that last little juice, you know what you end up doing a lot of times, 90% of the time or more? You fucking killed the deal. The question is that juice that you think you're going to get out of it worth your basically ability to trade in volume and make multiple moves and like get a direction picked? Honestly, a lot of times I think we can be almost in our own way when we try to do that. So just food for thought there.
And some food for thought on that one, Adam. Me and Shane Joe have a pretty good trade relationship. Right?
Bang. That's a huge part of it too, man. Keeping that rapport.
I would hope when he sees a deal come from me, like, he may not like it. He'd be like, I think you're asking too much or whatever.
Well, I mean, fair.
It's not a T-Rock deal. And vice versa. When Shane sends me one, I'm not looking at it going, this is an instant decline.
This clown. Who is this guy?
Right. And sometimes it even works out in his favor because we have such a good rapport. One, I see the name and I go, oh, Shane sent me a trade offer. This probably ain't too bad.
You get that little feeling, that little tingle.
Well, you go and look at it and you go, yeah, fuck, this works for me. Instead of like trying to fight him back and forth, I just hit the button. And sometimes for Shane, it ends up in a positive, right? I'm sure he'd much rather send away D-Rex than like, hey, I want to give Mike back his pick in case he wants to fucking tear this down.
Yeah, that's one guy I don't want to have that wild card in his hand. Yeah, fuck that. No, I mean, but honestly, I think realistically, Mike, what you just said, like, you get offers from certain people and you're like, oh, I'm going to open this, but I know what's coming. This is not a package you want at home. This is fucking spam mail. This is not what you're looking forward to. This isn't a package you ordered, right? You get that tingle from certain, okay, what do we got here? At least you're hoping, Mike, with what you're saying, that when you open this offer, that it's reasonable enough, it makes sense, you guys have a rapport in which directions you're trying to go with certain teams, and you're like, all right, I can work with this. We can start here, right? Like, sometimes without that rapport, you're dead in the water before we even start. Then, even if you get something going, now let's squeeze every little last morsel out of this deal before we hit the button. The other
thing I did think about, too, on this one, Adam, is, right, this happened before free agency. It happened before Koopa put out Rookie Warp, and then we dive into it, and now the Rookie Warp line, you're looking at who's the 111, 112. Like, if you can even gauge that and hit one of those guys who's in that class, who finishes over the next 2 years, as the 11th or 12th best player in the class, Adam, that's worth, like, basically tight end 12 or 13 in this league in the Warp chart. And you see how bad that line is right now for a Warp for tight ends. So let that sink in too. A
For
little
sure.
bit more buyer's remorse.
One of the things I also wanted to make note of, and I think a lot of times if you don't play in a lot of different leagues or look at a lot of different warp charts, Mike, especially the way I would think without really being as like forced to get hip to warp as I would have initially probably saw this before thinking about warp and looking at this chart and been like, man, like I feel Matthew Stafford kind of getting in this deal like with quarterback values and just where I think in Superflex as a whole, I'm like, I don't know about this, even though he's basically a corpse. Like I feel like I don't want to give away a quarterback, but then when I see this line and I'm like, all right, this is an aging guy that realistically is going to have to hit all things out of the park to be in that top line, and he's probably more in the meaningless line. Here you go. Like, Shane Joe, you have that quarterback option. Stafford can hit top 12, but that's in the very, very lofty range of outcomes, and I'm trying to get off this asset. So I think one thing I wanted to mention with real quick before we got off of your trade is the warp in that league. But let's get into someone else's trade, man. Enough of our trades. 26 minutes in. Holy mackerel, Mike.
Oop.
But you know what? Let's stay on course. The Haters Club, baby. Let's keep the hate going. Let's keep it flowing. 12 team Superflex, half PPR. It's a full tight end premium. Lineup start 9. So speaking of the Haters Club, shallow lineup league, buddy. Speaking of which, Mark Andrews, is he still elite? Let me ask you in general where you're at with Mark Andrews right now as an asset. Keep Trade Cut currently has him outside the top 6 at this point. Now, obviously, we know where we're at as far as the A-Warp life and tight ends, but just give me your quick synopsis of Mark Andrews, where you're valuing him as a asset, and then talk about the deal.
I got two different forces working against me here.
All right, let's do it.
I look at A-Warp tight end life, and I go, F them tight ends, man. Like I said, we just introduced Rookie Warp. And historically, Rookie Warp, I'm going to bet when I pull up this Warp graph for it, 111, 112, 110, even if you're lucky, 108. Mark Andrews probably still kills it. Adam puts it on the screen, and I just go, yep, fuck it.
I don't. These charts were made right before the Rookie Warp drop. But Mike, I can tell you that I'm pulling it up. Look at the tight end line for a second in this league, right? Can we admit, Mike, that when we look at Warp charts, this is going to be one of the more rare ones where it's still not the greatest of lines, but relative to most leagues, I'm a lot more interested in tight end in this league than I would be in the majority. I'm not saying I'm like going to go crazy on tight end, but I'm interested here at tight end.
If you look at it, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can see the steep drop off from the elite guys.
Correct.
Down to like, say, tight end 12.
Right. You're looking at like 6 to 8 realistically. All right. Like you got a real chance of being a difference maker. You get in the top 5. Like you're into, elite player territory, frankly.
And think about that, like tight end 5 is worth more in Warp than RB 5.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. And it's right next to wide receiver 5.
And quarterback 5. Quarterback 5.
Okay, Mike. Now that being said, let's go off of this Warp and let's at least acknowledge that, thank God, that it's Castle Black, one of us, one of ours, one of the shitheads that's at least bucking the A-Warp trend because they see the actual Warp chart. And it's like, yeah, Mark Andrews, I don't even need him to still be elite, Mike. I need him to just be, you give me the top 5 range, and I'd rather that than 111 probably in this class, frankly, unless you hit a gem.
For Rookie Warp comparisons over the last, that's what the sample is.
Right.
Multi-year Warp.
Yep.
For Rookie Warp, meaning these are the first 2 years of these rookies' careers. First 2 years. Not even, they could have a bad rookie year and have a great second. Player number 11. Rookie player number 11. Like, this is all things rosy. Like, you picked at 11 and you picked the 11th best player, right, which we know that could go either way. You could hit a home run, or more than likely you're probably going to strike out, and that might be the 18th best player, 19th,
sure,
20th, whatever. Right?
It's going to basically say that like players like Puka and Tank Dell, who were way later picks, are included in the top options.
But let's just hypothetically think about it.
Sure.
Say it is 11. 11 for 11.
Fair.
0.655 historical Warp, Adam, which is equal to right around, just slightly better than tight end 16. Tight end fucking 16.
Like, you know how many years, year in, year out, that it's going to change what tight end 16 is like?
Yeah.
A fucking Joe, Isaiah Likely or a Chig. Nothing against those guys, but like they're just not bets you're wanting to make.
Austin Hooper.
Daniel Bellinger type shit, right? Like
Greg Dulcich. There's a name.
All right, now I'm starting to feel a little bit queasy.
In this scenario with Warp, the chart, the Rookie Warp, everything, Mark Andrews for the 111 and the second round pick is a slam dunk.
Mike, I think, and when I look at it and I think about it, right, just format wise, okay, so you go half PPR for the position of the wide receiver. So a little down from full PPR. Then you get a full tight end bonus. So those are like that's all of a sudden at least 3x. And then when you think about the lineup start 9, it's like, okay, consolidation is what you want. So if you get the stud with the points per game that the extra point bonus that the tight end position gets, it's one of those where, Mike, if you're chasing the wrong ones, or if you pay up to chase and you hit the wrong tight end, that's gonna freaking burn. But if you get a discount Mark Andrews like this, like, shit, man, I think I'd have to take this, man. And I'm pretty much in this like camp of hate tight ends right now, you know?
Here's some extra one for you. The equivalent, if this 111 were to pay off, you'd have to hit the number 4 overall rookie.
I was actually going to ask that. So you got to hit a top 4 player in this class.
Yes. And with the way this class is shaken out, where we have like a tier of 7 right now, probably 8, Adam, to be completely honest.
Yep.
Picking 3 picks after that fucking tier runs out. Do you like your odds?
No, I mean, let's even say the 24 class like lives a little higher. That line lives a little higher than the stand. Like you still got to probably get a top 6 type pick. Like 111, bro. I'm hoping to hit like a nice little double. I'm not thinking I'm hitting one of these triples and inside the park home runs like you're talking about a top 4 type player in the class. So I mean,
one of the rarities, throwing a perfect game. Triple play.
Can I tell you the one other thing too about this is that, like, okay, 111, Mike, I think sometimes I'll see a deal and I hear the scenario and I'm like, all right, you got rid of the 111, you have all these other picks, and your reasoning is basically, I could afford that. But I feel like what you're missing is you lost a lot of leverage. Mike, what you really didn't do, you didn't send any other first away. It's a 25 second of your own. Like, I feel like all very recoupable in a lineup start 9. Like, I'm way more than comfortable with this gamble. So now let me ask you, Mark Andrews, tight end 7, just in general, where you at with that value?
In holistically A Warp Life in the ballpark.
Let's remove A Warp Life. Just ranking the tight end position in Dynasty.
Just ranking the tight ends, right? I have to take tight ends.
Yeah, let's just remove that positional, Fugazi, let's call it.
I would make a case for 2 spots higher. I would move TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Kincaid below him.
Yeah, I feel like, Mike, I get it to an extent. We get real excited about the young guys and all this, but I feel like 7 is, I'm be honest, I feel like it's a little bit of a slight, frankly. Like, I'm not going to tell you have to have him super, super high, but 7 feels kind of silly.
He should be more in that 4 to 5 conversation at worst.
I feel like outside of the top 5 is pushing too much. Anyway, 12-team, Superflex, PPR, lineup start 10, Mike, El Dorado. So let's get spicy here. Kyler Murray and CMC, CJ Stroud, Kirk in the second. So basically, are you willing to down tier from Stroud to Murray to pick up a what do they call him, a hammer in CMC? Or do you want the Kirk in the second side to go up to CJ Stroud? Lineup start 10. I'm going to pull up the board, by the way.
If you follow me at all, it's actually the up tier.
I love that.
Are you willing to up tier from CJ Stroud to Kyler Murray?
Mike, you didn't have to go straight to the – come on, let it build, man. You go straight in for the kill. Like, don't even – oh, wow. All right. I know that, but jeez.
Up tier. I understand the market on CJ Stroud's much better, though. Right. Everything else, though, like, if you want to say they're a wash or they're even close, I'll take CMC in a start 10 for Christian Kirk in a second.
Mike, I just want to think about, like, realistically. Now, here's what's crazy, okay? Just think about this for a second. And we're Christian Kirk guys when it comes to, like, best ball and stuff. And when I see this warp chart, I'm like, damn, okay, even wide receiver 18, that's pretty freaking decent, right? Like, holy hell. Like, Christian Kirk coming off the injury, like, him being a top 20-ish receiver, I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, Ridley left, who knows? That being said, Mike, I want you to take a look and just take a peek at all the way up in that very, very left top corner, bud.
That would be one.
See, you see that spot? Now that, my friend, is we call that a league wreck or a league fucking winner, buddy. When I see over 3 warp, Mike, just for a second, I want people to try to, like, we talk about warp all the time. You see a chart, you may not know. When I see the number over 3, Mike, in a lineup start 10, like, I'm probably like we talked about on AMA last night, I'm gonna start to get to the unspeakable things range for getting a real chance at getting that and capturing that 3 warp. That's crazy stuff.
It's absolutely nuts.
I guess, last thing, I don't know why I pulled that off, but what I wanted to talk about too, Mike, take a look at the quarterback line for a second for me, okay? You're looking at 2.5-ish, 2.4, whatever that is, with Allen and Hurts, right? Like, or whatever you think, quarterback 1, absolute, like, destroy the league type stuff. Versus you get to the 10-12 range and you're at 1.5, 1.7-ish. And it's like, I just think about it for a second. Realistically, as much as you can love CJ Stroud, I think he could be very good if all things hit. But I don't actually see quarterback 1 or 2 or even 3 realistically in a season. Nope. Very likely in his cards. Super, super outlier type stuff. Justin Herbert, where he threw, both incredible amount of yards and touchdowns in the same season type CJ Stroud's going to have to hit. Kyler Murray, I think safely, if healthy, is in that 1.75-ish mix. I don't think it's very likely for CJ Stroud to get that upper tier for me to get off of a guy like McCaffrey in this trade. Basically is what the story I'm trying to tell.
Because
Kyler, right.
Think about both of the rookie years. Kyler came in and scored the same fantasy points as CJ Stroud did. But the second year, Kyler went up to 24.4 fantasy points per game. Quarterback 3. And why? Because he ran for 819 yards.
Yeah, and he had like 8 or 10 touchdowns rushing
11
too.
tutties. 11 tutties on the ground.
Yeah, year,
22 fantasy points. 423 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. But there's a big difference between a quarterback who may run for 200 yards in a season and a quarterback who's going to approach 500.
So to the point, though, about Kyler, right? Like, I think people, when Kyler was in that elite discussion as far as, like, startups go, you're like, man, if this guy runs for 811, you get a little spoiled. But really what that, to me, says and what you should be looking at, in my opinion, is when all things click, we're talking about a guy that's inside the top 5 realistically, like when all that rushing hits. But what we're seeing also is he's probably getting 450, 5 on the ground on his more lower end rushing years, which is why I'm talking about this top 12 mix is like probably he's not getting too far outside of that just on his rushing floor. So to me, when I'm looking at this warp graph, it just makes too much sense with Kyler.
Some quick dummy math for you just to simplify it.
This is even better. I like dummy math. Yeah, please give it to me.
But for every 300 yards rushing, you can basically just add 2 fantasy points per game to a quarterback scoring. It's the difference between somebody scoring 18 and 20.
Do that over the course of the year, and you're talking about a different thing, right? And that's the difference with rushing, more rushing quarterbacks versus guys that can scramble but don't really run is realistically what the floor could be. So
1,000%.
All right, El Dorado is out of here. Jesus Sanchez, absolutely. Just I don't know why are we doing this? This is criminal activity. We wouldn't even be talking about it this long. Let's get into Bomb Squad here. Mr. Wonderful. Oh boy, Mike. I don't even have to look at. I just see Patrick Mahomes and Mr. Wonderful, and I know this is something we don't need to go over. 12-team, Superflex, 2 tight end, PPR, 0.75 tight end, premium best ball start, 12, Bomb Squad. All right, let's just look. Patrick Mahomes and the 108. All right, so definitely. Right at the back end of that tier break, though, for me. Still like that pick quite a bit. Watson, 101, is obviously very sizably different than most other assets here other than Mahomes. But, Mike, it's Watson, 110, 101, 302. Let's just strip it down for a second. Let's pretend that the 108 and the 110 didn't have a tier break, which I think they do. Let's just remove those. Watson and the 101, forget the third for a second. Watson and the 101 or Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I don't need warp. I don't need. You talk about dummy math. Let's just. I like how Nick said it. Like we just go back to the day of fractions, right? Let's cancel some stuff out. Boom. It's real simple. And now all of a sudden, like if you just tell me Watson and 101 for Mahomes, even in best ball start 12, thanks but no thanks. Like I appreciate your offer. It's not T-Rock level. You're not embarrassing yourself, but no, you get out of here. You got to come correct.
And then you factor in the fact that you and I both agree
that the 108 is the tier break up. Yep.
And I will send every 1010 or 110.
1010. I will send 110 too every time.
110 and the 302 every time, even in best ball for the 108 for the chance
I'll take
to get in.
Even in best ball, Mike. This may not be the smoothest process. This may be a little anti-process, but I'm with you. I'll send that 302 and the 110 to go up to 108. I'm in agreement.
If I told you it was the 110 and the 208, would you still be in to move to the 100s?
You're starting to push up against, like, I'm starting to feel my bladder a little bit. I'm a little more uncomfortable, but I'm still doing it. Yeah, I think. Right. Here's
hypothetically, though, just where we are, we both agree it's probably the back end of the tier. Like, we're hoping for something good to happen, right? And the good thing is somebody takes Brock Bowers. Now in a 2 tight end, 0.75 tight end premium, that's very fucking likely.
Yep.
Very, very,
where is the pivot? Where is the stopgap for you? 110 and what second round pick for you? You're like, can't do it.
In a best ball league?
Best ball start 12 like this, yeah. Where do you got to go? What's the second?
You're gonna watch. I'm gonna be pretty damn aggressive even in best ball leagues here, trading into this top 7 tier. Like 7's going to be my target in almost all the leagues, but like this where I could talk myself into 2 tight ends with the 0.75 premium and going like, yeah, people aren't going to fade Bowers even if they listen to me. They're not going to do it. They ain't living that life. Then 108 becomes the stopgap.
Well, let's actually pull that up, buddy, because let's take a peek here. Yeah, please, y'all take Bowers here. Y'all can have my man Brocky. Look at that tight end line, buddy. That's the tight end line we're used to seeing. You hit
right?
you hit the right one, Mike, and look at that. You're not even.
This is the kind of thing with A-Warp tight ends, right? When we talk about them, Adam, you just look at the settings, and I tell you 2 tight ends and a
Right.
.75 tight end premium in a
premium,
Bestball
yeah.
league. You go, man, these guys are probably worth their weight in gold. Then you go and look at your warp chart, and you go, nah, some dummy's going to take them at 105.
You know what's worth its weight in gold is having. Just give me 4 to 6 of the top. I'll take
Correct.
4 to 6 of 16 to 28 ish. And just let the bodies hit the floor. You know, you can have them expensive ones, man.
Let the bodies hit the floor. J.J. McCarthy or Roma Dunze falls to me at 108.
Yeah.
Cha-ching, profit. That's why I say, how aggressive would you be? 201, Adam. When I'm talking aggressive, some of these leagues, when I really look at the warp, I'm not going to do the Shane Joe trade where I just smash accept, but I'm going to do a little research on them. But Adam, in some of these leagues, man, if I got the 110 and the 111, I'll send both of those bitches for the 107.
Let's go feet to the fire now. All right, we already remove the fantasy land, the Fugazi, Mr. Wonderful. See, this is the type of deal that's not actionable, so we have to kind of strip it down to help people conceptualize real shit. Okay. Now, Mike, take the 108 and the 110 conversation away. Let's say the 108's out of the deal. All right, so it's Patrick Mahomes for all of it. Mahomes versus all of that.
Knowing what I know about rookie warp right now.
Okay, I should just started with that. See, but Mike, that's how you make it drama filled, right? You let it build up. You don't just kill it out of the right. The whole show's ruined. Just Mahomes, man, get out of here, Mr. Wonderful. Damn, like that is Mike. That's a freaking flex, dude. Like that's like 2 years ago when the Watson stuff was like, all right, like he's gonna not be suspended for forever. He's gonna be elite. What's happening, man?
We played a hand in that too, though.
Like I'm a Browns. Like I'm as close to it as I could be. Okay, I know how bad and grim it is. Stop. All right, Mike. Josh Jacobs. Speaking of Redwords and this free agency frenzy, 110 rookie warp. What you know about it? Lineup start 10. The running back position. In general, a lot of discussion points here. It's half PPR, but lineup start 10, the Sandlot. For some reason, it's in white font. Where you at?
Nice. You just highlight it.
Yeah, just kind of, it glows.
So, again, this is another one with Rookie Warp like playing into the consideration. Let me just say, with Rookie Warp in consideration, everything I've talked about, the 110 for Josh Jacobs is very fair if you're getting the Josh Jacobs side. This is still antithetical to the process that I like to do, which is buying running backs at this time for first-round picks. I could not do this trade.
Okay.
I understand the reasonings. I wouldn't hate it, right? If you want to say it's a 51-49 deal, but I could not pull the trigger if this was me personally. I could not buy a running back like Josh Jacobs, even though you and I just talked on the AMA. Like, I think it's a boon for him. Like, I'm kind of excited, and I will move him up my rankings.
About as good as it could be for his outcomes, sure.
I am still not buying that type of running back.
Okay.
Which, when I say that type of running back, I mean anyone not named Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, right?
You talking about the running backs, yeah. The club.
I will throw 2 running backs into the exception. We talked about one of them, Christian McCaffrey. If I fall on my face for the 110,
let's get to the other one. Let's get to the chase here. I know who we're going with. I know where it's at.
Saquon Barkley, and that one's because it's with heart.
He's back.
It's with fandom. But
Mike, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I'm Mike. Can I tell you? I probably did a little against the grain shit with my Mike. I got him in the tier with Taylor now. If I'm looking more so at a window of 1 or 2 years, I don't actually care that Quads is 27. Like, can I put it that way? Can I say that? And if you're telling me that I think he's one of the best talents that's going to see the field a ton, and he's on an offense like that, I don't care. I'll be crazy. Tell me I'm out of my mind. I'll put him at whatever that is, 6, 7. Hate me for it. I got him at running back 6. How you like that? How you like them apples, huh? You like apples? Speaking of apples, Mike, the Sandlot and this tight end warp line. I mean, my God, you talk about just Mike. I could literally care less. This is where I go full Koopa. Like, I don't care who it is in my starting lineup. Just give me the best chance of a pulse, whatever is. Maybe seeing 20% of snaps, even if I had to. Like, I don't care at all. Horrible. I'll say this. I agree with what you're saying about the process. Tony actually from BDG made a trade for the 112 and Javante. I think this one's definitely better, even though it's the 110. I understand the class as a whole. If you want to go get your running back, like the class as far as the landing spots, what the DC is, it's a little sketchier. So I get what you're doing. I think this is one of those, Mike, where it probably can pay off as long as Jacobs ends up healthy, sees the field, it's fine. So it's not like egregiously against the process, but I'll just say this. The 110 is still, as much as we'd say it's not the 108, Mike, it's a couple bad, stupid things in a draft from being like, holy hell, what did I pass up on here? So
right.
It's where I'm with you. I'm not going to do this personally, but I got no qualms with it for the most part if this is what you want to do to go get a guy in a good situation.
Yep. And we still don't know. We're early in the process, too. You don't even know what the Packers are going to do in the draft. To take a guy in the 3rd round or 4th round who's now given competition to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
There's still too much bad shit that could happen. They could bring in another free agent, and you find out that Josh Jacobs is, early season Josh Jacobs from last year still in trash, and all of a sudden you got this free agent running back that we didn't even think about just nipping at his ass, taking over roles, taking over workload, getting goal line carries. It's like, fuck.
I do think the range of outcomes is a little wider than people want to make it out to believe, to your point on the low end too. But let me just say, Mike, the high end's what's crazy is, okay, like I've seen Aaron Jones have 16 touchdowns in this offense and like not be in the bell cow. And like, what if they don't take a day 2 guy? And what if this second half Jordan Love offense is like, oh shit, like what if I was totally dead wrong and Jordan Love's the second coming of the new Green Bay offense, and it's like, holy crap, like what if we're looking at 15 touchdowns again?
The simplified process is most running backs, unless I have a few caveats, I'm not willing to bet on in March.
Mike, by the way, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just laying out the player analysis of the upside and the downside. I think are still wide for him. All right, this is interesting. Philly Wizwood out. Zamir White quietly got a little boost on a keep trade cut. Jacobs gone. You want to talk about risky bets for a second, okay? This is a guy that didn't get any touches until Jacobs got hurt. This is a team that could absolutely draft a running back at any point. There's no commitment. Like, yeah, there is upside. There's a chance that Zamir White looked good last year, knows the guys in the building. But let me just ask you, process-wise in general, it's not even necessarily that. Zamir White plus the 205 now for a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. This is a 12-team Superflex PPR. 0.2 points per carry, interestingly. Lineup start 10. Trade addicts.
It's fine, but again, against my process on how I like to do things.
Okay.
Zamir White has been welcomed into the McNutted sell list on
the Ty Chandler type list, except for he didn't get a Aaron Jones going his way.
The Tajay Spears type sell list.
The only difference is he just didn't have the big bad news happen, right? He had the opposite.
Yet.
Well, as of the time of recording. Like, can I tell you what's interesting though? The reason I think I kind of like it. Now, to your point, Zamir White is one of the assets is where, like, it's like I felt good, and then you kind of make me limp, right? Because I just don't want to bet on that. Look at, first of all, this warp. This is one of the more interesting warps, Mike. This is as bunched up as you're going to ever see it. Just assets they're just assets. They're all the same. Not really, but it's close as you're going to get to that. Mike, I think the interesting part, though, to me is seeing this quarterback line, Mike. 40 years old and Aaron Rodgers. You know what I think he probably has a better chance of falling in than not? That any position at all. Like he's no different if he's quarterback 18 than really tight end 18. Then wide receiver running back 18 are better than him. Like 205 I feel like is a pretty decent pivot. Plus you get this Zamir White card, which hopefully, now to your point, if I have all those other shares, I'm trying to find a sucker to move it to again. If I got a second round value out of this again, you tell me 2 seconds for Aaron Rodgers with this warp, I want more trade addicts because that's foolishness.
Yes. I'm like I said, it's close and I can see it either way. But just on the surface of the trade, unless you're planning on moving Zamir White, right? Like, welcome to the sell list. Any second he's yours. 2 seconds in the end for Aaron Rodgers is a fair enough deal. But if you're taking Zamir White because you're like, hey, yeah, I'm just telling you, be prepared for the downfall. The
thunder.
Trey Benson to the Raiders? Fuck me. Right?
They don't even have a quarterback. They took a round 2.
Yeah,
what are they doing?
That's the kind of shit that you're setting yourself up for. So,
did you see how Pierce runs it? They want to run the piss out of the ball. They don't need a quarterback. Boy, that would be right up the sphincter. Let me just ask you then, Mike, what do you think? I'm curious. What do you think right now Zamir White realistically nets in a trade, or what the overreactors, the addicts of keep trade cut currently are doing? I actually briefly looked at KTC, which is
so he's up to RB 28. No,
he was 29 when I looked. He's 28 now.
Oh. He's up to 28. Puts him in the same territory as Jonathan Brooks, Zach Charbonnet, Hollywood Brown, who we haven't seen signed anywhere yet. Troy Franklin, Adam, is below him. Jahan Dotson, Nick Chubb, Keon Coleman.
Stop.
Marvin Mims, if you're a Marvin Mims guy, pass for me.
I'm not.
Sutton,
I don't start 10.
James Conner, Adam. Think about this, man. Zamir White is ahead of James Conner.
Mike, this is what I'm saying. Now, this could be a total overinflation, just clicking shit around, right? People get crazy. But, Mike, just think for a second. Name me, obviously take the ones out that we're not trading for. We're not pivoting into Marvin Mims. We're not, Take the sucker ones out that we know about.
How about an easy one for you? You're a Browns guy, and you and I don't like this guy either. But Jerry Jeudy. Would you rather have Zamir White or Jerry Jeudy at this point?
I mean, in a lineup start 10, I really don't love Jeudy. But honestly, like, if you're telling me he's a part of my rotation at the back end, like, Mike, tack that on to the 205. In this class, looking at this warp,
I feel better about it.
I got a chance, again, to get a running back maybe that lands in the right spot, or I get a wide receiver, decent value. Like, I can't forget. My point is to everything you're saying I agree with about Zamir White. I don't want to be betting on Zamir White right now. But this trade I can't pass up on for Aaron Rodgers. Like, I just can't do it. Seeing that warp is just, I'm good, man, on QBs that aren't, the difference makers. Like the ones that I feel really secure about. Rodgers, I think if everything hit right, maybe he's a quarterback 12, 15, maybe. Like that's if everything hits right. I don't think he's going to like come out and tear the world apart, frankly. I don't. I'm good. I'm moving off of him.
He's probably going to be vice president anyways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike, come on. This is Aaron Rodgers, man.
Do you get vice president points? Like, how does that scale on the warp?
I think, too, Mike, you just think about it. Like, a guy that got through the COVID era in the NFL without actually getting the vaccine, too, and just, why not him?
On a current ayahuasca retreat.
Mike, let me give you some trades. I'm going to not read this one because this is just larceny. Someone traded Brandon Ayuk for Zamir White. I assume that's an error. 24-second, the 209. Alvin Kamara and a 25-second. I'm just reading, buddy. Darnell Mooney and a 25-second. A 25-second. Cooper Kupp, stop it. Chris Godwin, 25-second. 302 and 402. I'd probably pass on that, but again, just 25-second. A 25-second and the 306. J-Mo and a 25-second. The 208. My point is, you don't have to sell for it. You can probably get off of him and make this a 2 seconds for Rodgers deal, and then we're just like, all right, with that warp, it's easy, right? So 1000%.
But yeah, back to the first point. Welcome Zamir White to the
trade block. This is a quick thing. You're gonna have. I'm gonna show you your locker and just be ready to go. Don't get comfortable. All right. Speaking of trade addicts, yeah, I'm gonna be trading him immediately. All right, all flex. Let's see if we actually are all flexing. Big Corey, Drake. Oh my gosh. All right, Mike. So we have two wildly different Mark Andrews trades in this. Like, forget warp for a second. Let's warp aside. Let's pretend it's a great tight end warp line. Drake London in the 210, full PPR, 0.75 tight end premium, best ball start 11. I'm getting two assets and what I think has a chance to be upside wise in that, like, what we were hoping Olave and freaking Garrett Wilson could be. What? Mike, I mean, you talk about all flex. It's not just the name of the league. This is ridiculous.
So we casually talked about Mark Andrews returning to top 5. Historical warp would tell you if he got to top 5 over a 5-year average, he's a .782.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
That is the equivalent of wide receiver 21.
I mean, Jacoby Myers type-ish.
This is very, very different Mark Andrews deals. So to answer the question, is Mark Andrews still elite? To a degree.
Maybe.
Not fucking Drake London elite. All right.
I'll tell you what we're finding out about Mark Andrews.
Drake London and a plus. What the fuck?
Mark Andrews may be elite in your league. You need to go find out because the 111 and the tight end. Mike, just for a second, use warp before we even. Just in general, the other trade, I'm a lot more interested in the tight end position. Like before we even talk the assets in that warp league. Look at this. You're telling me that you have to be. Like, Mark Andrews does have to be elite. 1, to even have a conversation here. And then 2, like, he's got to be 1 or 2 for sure. And you got to tell me Drake London, this whole Kirk Cousins thing is a ruse. And nothing happens. Like, we're looking. That's what has to happen for you to win this bet. That's incredibly insane.
You got to have Mark Andrews locked in as a top 5 guy, and you have to have Drake London locked out of being a wide receiver 2.
Everything has to go back to the old way. Like, Drake London has to be low-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type stuff. Mark Andrews, no injury problems. Top 1, 2, locked in, elite tight end. Like, this bet is crazy.
Yep. And that's without factoring in just the random plus in a best ball league of that.
Not to mention the whatever the fuck happens at 210 here. We'll see. Like, maybe you land a Sam Laporta. Like, oh, my God.
Maybe you trade that for an actual player. Something crazy.
Jaden Reed. I mean, how many? Oh, my God. Look at two, but for the 210, right? If you just drafted, Mike, with this class and the depth, some of these receiver profiles, which frankly we don't love there. But think about, like, if you just hit on something that's pivotable at some point. Look at how this wide receiver line is. Like, wide receiver 30 is beating all but the top 7 tight ends. You could tell me that Mark Andrews right now next year, there's a range of outcomes where he doesn't beat what the 210 ends up being in warp in this league. Now, how would that fucking fit for size? Oh my God.
Shout out to Big Corey for fleecing the piss out of this guy.
Mike, I'm starting to feel like on the trade show that I got this deal with T-Rock. I'm like, all right, I feel decent about it. Like, I know it's not perfect, but like, what is all this craziness? People, Mahomes and a tier up into the 108.
Where's this one? I need it.
I wish. This is the old G days. All right, the Who's. You know what, Mike? Can we talk about finally the Who's? Back to basics. Getting on the show here. 3 Mahomes and the Who's. So it's DJ Moore, Bryce Young. Nice little trade for him with Deontay in the 407. Wow, the 104 and then the 302 and the 305. So it's a 12-team Superflex PPR, 0.75 tight end premium, best ball start 11. Dynasty Best Ball Generation X. So the Best Ball thing definitely comes into play. But we're talking about 104 here now. Where are you at?
I want the 104, Adam.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm just my immediate gut reaction is exactly what you are. I got to pull up Warp. My Best Ball principles, obviously, you're thinking Bryce Young, trying to buy low, and you get DJ Moore, who's a really nice option. But man, 104 is like, dude, if I'm coming off 104, I feel like I need to feel like I'm getting something, something really nice.
Let me just ask you, because we've seen a lot of these deals, right? You see me buy piss ton of Bryce Young. But what I've been buying it for? Let's just say it's the 110. Let me be real rosy.
110, 112, something in that, right?
The Bryce Young, give him the equivalent of the 110, Adam. How much more would you give DJ Moore? 109?
Wait, say that again. Hold on.
If you had to trade DJ Moore for a pick, what would seem like fair value for you? 108.
I think 109. I want DJ Moore. 108. I'd be interested in the pick type stuff. Like, not saying you have to make it, but 108 is where it's, I think, more real.
So just put those in rookie pick values.
Okay.
Do you want the 109 and 110?
Or the 104?
Or the 104, even in a best ball league.
I would say there, 108 and 110, we're having a conversation. 109 and 110, I want the 104 not even really having a conversation at all. Like, it's not close. I'll tell you this, too. The other interesting part, Mike, I got the warp up. Let me just take it off for a second. Because, Mike, I'll say this, too. In best ball, a couple shots in the mid to early third versus a 407. Also, like, it's not a deal killer per se, but it also makes me feel a little more decent about taking the consolidation of the 104 on these two pieces. And then, like, all right, let me just take a couple shots in third. Fuck around and find out. Or see if I can move them both. Maybe I can take the 302 and the 305 and I get someone at 208 I didn't think was going to be there type stuff. 407 is kind of like one of those deadlock picks, it feels like, where it's just like, all right, hope and pray. Like, you can't do much with it and you just hope you hit something. Damn, Blitz. I know it feels like when you come up, like, we're looking to just pounce, but I'm honestly trying here. Let's look at Warp. I don't think it's going to be able to do much for you, but we'll try, Blitz. We'll see, all right?
Quarterback Warp's fair.
Mike, but can I tell you what this screams to me? Even in a best ball league, when I just see a chart like this, what does it say to me? All about, even in best ball, this is one of those few leagues where it's like, let me pay up for somebody. Let me consolidate. You get a stud. If you get a true difference maker, it doesn't matter the position. Wide receiver, quarterback, huge warp. Tight end 1, 2, and 3 are in the 2 conversation. Wide receiver, running back, and quarterback, you're 2.5 to 3. But, Mike, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because if I take the 104, let's say that's Malik Neighbors, if I have a valuable player in the range of pivoting into these guys, I don't even have to make that rookie pick I don't have to wait and see if that rookie pick becomes a warp difference maker. I can move that player or that asset into guys that have a better chance to get into that elite scoring here. Even in best ball, Mike, that's really high warp for some of those top guys.
So the high range of rookie warp, right, which you can't see here, is a 2.379, the number one player historically over the last 5 years.
That's really good in this. Really good.
Which is better than the wide receiver 2 in this league, right?
Is it? Okay. Maybe this is just for one season then we're looking at. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the multi-year.
You're looking at the multi-year? All right, got it.
Which is also better than, historically, quarterback 5.
Well, just think about that, Mike. 104, right? Right now, what I can tell you about 104, even if you're like, let's not get the May craziness into this because me and you could go down a tangent on that. Let's just remove the chaos there. You're talking about Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Marv, and Malik. Like, those guys I already have seen, and I can feel like it's not going to stop as far as them trading and their ability to trade into really nice assets. Not to mention, to your point, if you end up keeping and hitting the right one,
if you want to go back to our roots, man, let's go look at startup ADP. Where's the rookie 104 go?
All those ones when they're players are they're all in the mid third. Let me just pull up current ADP right now. Let's just do this. Live time. Riveting stuff. All right. So when it's picks, Mike, the 305 is the 103 and the that's one quarterback. I was about to say. You know what's crazy? When you go to the website, it's like someone could have been playing with it. I'm like, I don't ever look at the one. All right, let's go to the right. Let's go to the right page. Everyone, just stick with me on this. All right. The 301 is the pick 3, and the pick 4 is the 306. That's when it's picks. Okay.
That's what we should do, right? Just spitballing here on the ADP too.
I like that.
Could we get them in separate? So then you never got to worry about somebody changing your shit on you.
That's a good call. That's a good call. By the way, then let's go to this real quick because we don't have nearly as many. It's over 400 versus like 150.
Right.
But when it's the players, Mike, you're looking at actually right now, interestingly, they're behind. That's going to catch up. Not been enough data, but 306 and 308. Point is, right now it's a mid-third. I think the 104 has a chance to be early third, if not back-end second type stuff. Yeah.
That's kind of where I would put it. 103, 104 should be going in the second somewhere. Mm-hmm. Where's Bryce Young?
I think it's a little better than that. I think it's 6.
6?
I want to say. Let me lie. He's higher than you'd think, actually. 407.
So in a startup right now, would you trade your third for the?
In a best ball league, I would. Now, to be fair, just answering the roots. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. And I know he is big on startup values, and that's one of the cores of his essence. I'll just say this, Mike. Like DJ Moore with the quarterback situation with Caleb, I don't know if it's going to be better than it was for Fields, but I can see what he's doing. Let me just say I don't think it's awful. I just personally, when I see the warp like this, I'm like, man, what can I make this 104 turn in? I just feel I feel powerful with the 104. I feel defeated. I feel very stagnant with the Bryce and the DJ Moore side. I feel decided. I feel like this is where I have. This is what I got.
A lot of it is this class.
It's 100%. That's 100%. It's the wide receivers are crazy and the quarterbacks are crazy.
I give you 4 players, right? You can take Drake May out of it, but I gave you Caleb, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Neighbors as your 4. Doesn't every one of those guys just feel like they get you into a different conversation or a different tier of players?
They do.
Right. Caleb, we saw Caleb essentially for a Patrick Mahomes deal, right? He gets you in that conversation, don't
Mike, he's going 1 pick behind A-Rich for understanding. Okay? First round startup.
Marvin Neighbors. Doesn't Marvin Neighbors get you at the very least into the CeeDee Lamb conversation? The Jamar Chase conversation?
I'll say Marv probably does. I think Neighbors could. I think Neighbors probably definitely get you more in an Amon-Ra conversation. But to your point, we're talking, okay, DJ Moore, and I like DJ Moore, and I think there's a chance where you can maybe see one of his better seasons. DJ Moore does not get you in a conversation with them elite guys, man. DJ Moore sometimes for crazy managers doesn't get you into that sexy Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave type thing. You know what I mean? It's also not just what you said, Mike. It's also the timing. It's everything you said about those assets. Plus, we are in peak crazy draft. Do stupid shit. I'll pull up a trade on the trade show. What did we just witness? Patrick Mahomes type stuff.
Especially in down tier, I'll down tier with the best of them. But
I've seen Twitter erupt over some of those down tiers.
Even at this time of the year, Adam, I'm in consolidation season. Get me into the safe assets that people value, right? When we get to fucking July, all bets are off then. The market has stabilized. You know where players are going. You want to down tier then and get multiple assets in a best ball league? Fucking go for it, man. I'll do it with the best of them. I'm not doing that shit in March.
The other thing I think about too, Mike, about the 104 especially, right, is okay.
Not on the upswing of these rookie pick values.
Everything you talked about real quick as well, Blitz has to be loving this. Even though we're saying we want the other side, he's just getting airtime galore. Mike, the one thing about the 104 we talked about right now, you're talking about the players that were all right, lock bets or feel very, very secure as far as assets that are going to rise even. Mike, this is the other thing I think about. This tight end line is interestingly enough, I'm probably not doing it. I'm probably not taking the leap. But if the cost was intriguing, I probably would take a shot. Now, I'm not going to do it probably where Brock Bowers is going to go, but what is my point? Brock Bowers, for a lot of people in a format like this, is probably Brock Bowers goes top 5. All of a sudden, can I tell you what can happen with the 104 as well? Is let's say Brock Bowers goes top 5. Let's say Rome ends up being a top 10 pick. I might be able to fuck around and tier back from 104 into 106. Get what I was maybe going to take anyway or something that I feel very similar with, and I end up with a ta-da, literally abracadabra, here's a 112 that went along with it, 202. How's that in freaking best ball? A magical top 15 pick in the rookie class.
You just watched DJ Moore have a chemistry with Justin Fields, but we don't know what that's going to be like. You can run down the hypotheticals. We've seen Rome mock to the Bears. I think Rome's a fantastic prospect.
Sure.
Both of these guys coming out, I'd probably still give the edge to Rome over DJ Moore. Now, here's the other thing. Say it is Caleb Williams at 1. We tend to see this with rookie quarterbacks and rookie wide receivers. The chemistry that they have, for one reason, Adam, They go to rookie minicamp. DJ Moore's not going to rookie minicamp, right? You saw it with Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. Like, they find their guy sometimes. I've been throwing to him since fucking May. Like, we have a connection. Even though maybe what's already on the roster is really good.
Yeah.
But if they're even close to equal,
yeah.
Who's to fucking say that DJ Moore is going to be the number one target of Caleb Williams and not the wide receiver they draft?
I hear your point. I think that DJ Moore right now probably even there for at least the incoming season is the alpha. However, to your point, like I'm not going to rule it out of the range of outcomes. It's not crazy to say. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is what's interesting about DJ Moore to me, Mike. I'm pulling up. I got to do this. I'm sorry, Blitz. I'm not actually sorry because I know you're probably loving all this airtime, but like Mike, I'm just curious. In a lot of these different leagues, where did DJ Moore finish in WARP? And then, like, I think about his year last year and the fact that he's at wide receiver 13 when we're taking the kickers as placeholders. Like, he had a couple they had the one just mammoth game,
monster game, 200 yards.
But I look at his season last year and I'm like, I felt like outside of a couple massive hits, it felt very DJ Moore. I like him, Mike. I do like him, but it's just
third player in WARP, wide receiver 8.
Okay. Oh, all right. I was gonna say there's no way there. I got you. 33rd overall, wide receiver 8. Yeah. And I think the big booms he had obviously puts his WARP up very high. I still think he has boom upside, but man, I feel like we're probably at this range. It's just a steep bet, man. It's a steep bet, I think, at this spot.
The other players he was around: Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, Devontae Adams wasn't.
I like DJ Moore. Please, nobody listen to this and think that I'm a DJ Moore hater. Trust me when I tell you I'm probably one of the bigger stands, but it feels like we're getting close to. There's not really much more room to grow, right? Like it's just Mike. I think it could end up being fine if Bryce ends up. Let me just ask you this. This is a totally different conversation, but Bryce Young. We were having a conversation. AMA. I was just on earlier today. They were asking Bryce Young or Watson. And I was starting to say Watson. I think the floor is safer with Watson, but the reality is Watson can't go as high, very likely, without smashing, top 8, top 5 quarterback stuff. Bryce Young, I feel like the floor, like if he has a really bad season again, people could get panicked. So the floor is not safe. But Mike, let me tell you something. If Bryce Young in this situation, only adding Deontay, very similar, finishes top 15, top 12 in production points per game, Bryce Young has a ton decline. So he's very unsafe, and right now a lot of people, even with the Deontay stuff, still don't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. But I'll just tell you, Bryce Young, while risky, has a ton of value upswing that could be had. So I can understand it. I want the 104. I'm not gonna lie, but
DJ Moore is an interesting one. He's an interesting one because he's at that age range, Adam, where like we still think it matters. The age still matters, but it really doesn't.
No.
What's he, 28?
Yeah, he's for the record, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, 28, and look where they can go down to.
Well, he had a great year. His best year of his career. But WAR per game wise, 46th WAR per game.
That's what I'm saying.
Like Devontae Adams is better.
Like I'm just telling you, those big games were it.
He should be in that 1 year bet, right? Just like the rest of them. And I can tell you the price cost on like a Devontae Adams or a Mike Evans, who is even better, is a lot less than what a DJ Moore is, right?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
It's kind of that fallacy that we put on guys because you're like, oh, he's only 20. Just saying, like we've seen 28-year-old wide receivers fall off before too, just as likely as a 31-year-old Devontae Adams.
Well, really, what are you talking about? Like realistically, you're talking about you have now. This can be an eternity in Dynasty the way that we like to play, but it's a year or two different than Diggs. Look at where Diggs is at now. Very polarizing. Look at Adams is an injury away from going to poo-poo land. Cooper Kupp has a Puka Nacua get drafted, and all of a sudden, Cooper Kupp, I don't know about this, man. I might be out. This was a guy that you couldn't buy for 2 firsts at one point not too long ago, Mike. Like,
that's kind of crazy.
Anyway, DJ Moore is an interesting case, by the way. I'm not here to hate on him, but it's getting rich, It's getting rich.
Oh,
and that's back to the start.
That's the show.
Look at that, huh?
Back to the show.
I don't know how we got that on there, but it's there. And here's what I do know, Mike. Let's get over to this screen because I'm just curious where you're at. Like that trade show felt like a wild roller coaster. Like
I was gonna say
that was
a roller coaster of emotions.
I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm completely like a little bit unsure of like what I just witnessed overall. Like I saw some process trades that make sense and I can make good cases for and argue both sides, and then I'm like, what in the Sam hell are we doing with draft picks right now?
I can understand it. I'm on this roller coaster too because Cooper has just completely shattered my world in the last couple of weeks.
I know. I wish I was on that freaking thing. I watched it. I was like kind of. I'm almost glad I wasn't because I better for me to listen than talk.
Multi-year warp changed the game where you just ignore and you're looking at historical averages, which I'd much rather do that than off 1 year sample sizes because we see so much variance.
All last year when we were talking warp, you tended to go to the multi-year stuff or like prior years, and I was focusing more on last year. Yeah, 100%. I remember.
Because we play a game of fucking variance, so the multi-year warp shocked it. And then where I was at with like liquidity and rookie pick values, and then you see the rookie warp come into play, and you're like, fuck, man, this opens up a whole new world of possibilities, especially antithetical to what I was thinking before. So rookie warp now this week is just, it's mind fuck.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you though? As the more and more I listened, and this is why I'm glad I wasn't on, because I could actually just like watch it secondhand and just think. Like honestly, to me, my experiment was all for naught because Koopa just fucking put it into a chart that tells you everything in your specific league. And it says, Mike, what did the one I basically was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot out of all these. I'm going to pivot out all these rookie picks, right? Like I'm going to basically try to maneuver them into a blend of, I want to try to hit on some young guys, but I want to get more guaranteed points. Yeah, I want to get that. And guess what? On the other one, the Arkham League, I think I had almost, if I didn't have the whole first round, I had almost all of it. I just basically took all the players and I'm like, we're going to kind of let the chips fall where they may. I got one trade that gifted to me. We don't have to relive, but we know. And like, I didn't make the playoffs. Playoffs? Like, I ran the tape. Like, that shit league is outrageous. The Arkham League is missing the playoffs. To give you an, like, just, it's literally a lot of the rookie picks outside of the high-end ones is luck or using what you have in leverage and timing to get what you need and pivot to where you want to go and finding and understanding warp charts, especially, right? To your point, Keenan Allen's, Mike Evans. Why do I have to pay the DJ Moore price to go get these guys for a year if I can get two of them or a significantly discounted version? Understanding all that stuff and using the rookie picks as opposed to making all of them, I think it's a huge, huge tell on how you should be kind of using the leverage you have if you have multiple pieces.
We'll definitely dive into that more too as we go on.
Oh, big time. This was just a quick. I'm excited for it though, man.
From the man himself.
The whole warp tool is becoming just like the holy grail, buddy. It's got levels and layers and all kind of stuff. It's like an onion, you know?
Yeah, it's a 7-layer nacho.
Philly whiz without. How's that onion? You know.
Love it, man. Great trade show, though.
Great trade show. We had a multitude of deals. Again, if you want your deal featured on the show, go hit the Discord up, patreon.com/South Harmon. Discord is on and popping. Mike,
bang, bang.
Trade shows are awesome. Let us know, too. Let us know. What do you think of Mark Andrews? Tight end 7, yay or nay? You in or you out? Interested if the warp is decent in Andrews? Are you out like completely? I'd love to hear in the comments where you guys are at on Andrews. It's interesting to me, Mike, just when I see stuff like this where Brock Bowers is literally being put in the same breath right now as Laporta, who basically just completely destroyed the tight end position as a rookie. Brock Bowers is just there. Mark Andrews has had pretty good success at the tight end, and it's like, he's outside the top 5. It's just we get a little carried away as a community, I think, on shit like this. You're muted, sorry.
It's good we saw opposite ends of the spectrum Mark Andrews deals.
Mike, I just went through the trades. I'm like, all right, we got a couple Mark Andrews ones. We got to talk about this, and I did not realize the extent of the difference. And then the warp charts, holy shit, man, they're just wild.
And if you roster Zamir White, go fucking trade him. Do yourself a favor.
Do you ask yourself this? If you're holding him, just realistically think about this too. Do you actually believe that Zamir White, based on what we saw in his career and not being able to see the field, as good as he looked, as big as he was, all the upside, is going to be a difference-making running back for a full season in the Raiders offense? Think long and hard about that. Because honestly, Mike, if you're talking just second-round picks in general in this class with the depth, especially top 20 ones, you're making a rich bet holding on to Zamir White, buddy. That's a rich bet, man. So just think long and hard before you hold on to those Zamir White shares.
Kyron Williams fucked everybody up last year.
I mean, I guess everyone's chasing it now, right? Zamir's the next one. All right, well, on that note, I think it's definitely time for me to get the hell up out of here. I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know what I'm hearing. We'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week for the Dynasty Trade Show, Saturday morning. We're out of this thing. Peace.